We're on the top of Nun Zayin Amid Beis. Ashkech Rav Yaakov bar Acha. The top line. Ashkech Rav Yaakov bar Acha. The Havaksiv b'Sefer Agad deBeirav. Ben Noyach Nerag b'Dayin Echad u'Be'ed Echad Shaloi b'Hasra. Although we've said, we know that the rule is that when the Yid is subject to Bezdin, to Mises Bezdin, certainly, but in all everything you need, but you need three, at a minimum of 3 Dayanim and 2 Eidim, and you need Asra. But this doesn't apply to Ben Noach. You need a single Eid and a single Dayan, and there's no need for Asra. But Mipiyesh v'lo Mipiyesh. However, the Eid Echad can't be a woman, it has to be a man. Va'afilu Karav, and even a relative. So this seems to me, this answers a question that Rafal asked a while ago. I think it was Rafal who asked this. That do you need a kosher? What kind of Edom are we talking about? Are we talking about Jewish Edom, or are we talking about non-Jewish Edom? So if we're talking about a Karav of this Ben Noach, it must be talking about non-Jewish Edom. He wouldn't have Jewish Krovim. So we're saying this aid, and I think also, yeah, but that's essentially why I think it has to be talking about non-Jewish aid. Because we're saying a karv is mutter. This will also apply. It'll also be misa if a ben noyach kills a fetus, which is not the case by yid. By yid, there's not a chiv misa. It's certainly aser, but there's no chiv misa for destroying a fetus. Minani mili, where does this come from? Amakra achas dimchem lenafshe seichem edresh. The Torah says that this is in Bereshis, and it's talking about essentially saying you're not allowed to kill. Achas dimchem lenafshe seichem edresh. I'm going to seek out, or I'm going to avenge the dam nefesh. Miyad kol chay edreshenu, from any living person, I'm going to seek it out. Miyad adam, from a man. Miyad ish achiv edresh es nefesh adam. When someone kills someone, I'm going to avenge him. So we say this whole pasuk, achas dimcha nafshe seichem. The pasuk had already said adam b'dam. We had seen other psukim shevich dam adam ba'adam dam yishavich. So what is this pasuk saying it twice for? It's telling you afilu b'dayin echad. Miyad kol chaya. So the first part of the pasuk, achas dimcha nafshe seichem edroish, it means afilu b'dayin echad. Miyad kol chaya afilu shaloi b'hasra. That tells you without hasra. Edreshenu, I'm going to seek it out. Miyad adam afilu b'yad echad, even with a single aid. Miyad ish v'le miyad ish. But it says, the Torah says miyad ish. So that tells you that there's a limit to the leniency, but because the Torah says miyad ish, that means not a woman who's a dayan or a woman who's a aid. Achiv, it says miyad ish achiv afilu karv, even though the ben noyach is related to the aid or to the dayan. Bishum bishmal amru aflo ovrim. Bishmal added, they're even chayiv on ovrim. My time of the Yishmael. What does he get this from? We make we do a drasha from this. Ezu da adam shehu ba'adam. It says shevich dam ha'adam ba'adam. So we put that in parentheses. Adam ba'adam. So what is an adam that's in an adam? Haviyayim is uber. Shebemeya imay. A fetus in its mother's womb is an adam inside another adam. That's what the pasuk is referring to. The Tana Kama, Tana de Menashu. He's going according to the Tana de Menashu. The Amar Komisha Amur of Neinayach Ene Alechenek. It's coming to tell you that that every Bnei Nayach only gets Chenek. B'shani le hai ba'adam ha'sefer dekar v'darish be'hachi ba'adam dam yishafach. That it's not adam ba'adam, but he darshans rather shevich dam ha'adam, and then he darshans ba'adam dam yishafach ba'adam ha'sefer dekar v'darish be'hachi. Ba'adam dam yishafach. Ezu shvichas dam shel adam shu begufay shel adam. What is a shvichas dam? How do you kill someone that his guf remains intact, that it's only on the inside, which we saw before when we were talking about the Arba Mrs. Bezdin. So he said chenek was the only one in which the guf remains intact. So this is coming to tell you that the method of execution for a ben nayach is always going to be chenek, because he darshan dam ba'adam, but the adam dam yisha. Masav Rav Hamuna, the isha loy mifkeda. Is it true that a woman is not capable of being an aid or a dayan? Vaksiv ki adativ lamana sheyitzava. So you have to see the whole pasuk. It doesn't say the whole pasuk in the Gemara. You have lamana sheyitzava as banav as beisei achrav. V'shamru darach Hashem lasas staku mishpat. You should know that you should command your sons. This is talk to the bnei Noach, right? This is by Bereshis. Ves beisei was said to Avram. Ves beisei achrav, and to your household afterwards. V'shamru darach Hashem lasas staku mishpat. The pasuk ends off to do staku mishpat. So what is mishpat? It means to be a dayan. So we see from this pasuk that it says beisai, which refers to his household, which is beisai zu ishtai, and it's saying there's a din of mishpat even on beisai. She could be a dayan. So how could we say that ish in the pasuk says that you can't have a woman be an aid or a dayan, but we have a pasuk that says that a woman could be a dayan by bnei Noach. Umaysav lahu mafarkla, banav ledin, beisay l'tztaka. He says no. The pasuk said two things. It said tztaka umishpat. So the part about mishpat was only referred to as banav, and as beisay is going on the tztaka. Amli Rav Avi Sabal Rav Papa. Ema bas noach shaharga loiti harig. Let's say that a woman bas noach, not a ben noach, but a bas noach, a woman who's not Jewish, if she kills, she should not be subject to misa, because the pasuk says miyad ish v'lo miyad. Miyad isha. Why do we say the miyad ish? We said it's telling miyad ish v'lo miyad isha. Let's say the miyad ish v'lo miyad, which you said that you can't have a isha be a dayan or an aid. Maybe it's coming to tell you that a isha is not chayiv for killing someone. Why are we applying it to say that she's not a kosher aid? Amalei hachi amar Rabbi Yehuda shevich dam ha'adam b'chol makar. The pasuk says shevich dam ha'adam, so that tells you that it's an expansive rule, and it's coming to tell you that she's going to be chayiv in any case. That your person, a ben noach, is going to be generally chayiv. So therefore, we're not going to use the pasuk to exclude an isha. That would be a huge carve out from the isser of ben noach. But we will say that they're, instead of carving out directly and saying that a ben noach, a bas noach is not going to be chayiv misa, we'll say that a bas noach is not going to be a kosher aid, which is also a somewhat, it's making it more kal, that it's a little harder to be mechayiv ben noach for misa, but it's not such a huge kal. So the Gemara, ema bas noach shezin saloi teharu v'sev al ken yazev ish. Therefore, a man should leave his wife. And on the next blot, we're going to see that we're going to see over here also, this is the source for the chiyuv of arayis. Where do we see arayis is aser for a ben noach? The pasuk says, al ken yazav ishes aviv ve'es imay v'davak be'ishtay v'hayu l'basar echad. So we darshan this to mean, we say al ken yazav ishes aviv ve'es imay, we're going to say that means the certain arayis that are relevant to a ben noach, and the arayis of aviv and arayis of imay. He has to give them off. Davak be'ishtay, he should stick to his wife. He shouldn't be ba on someone else's ishtay. So with the pasuk, we're going to go through all this. Al ken yazav ish v'loy isha. Maybe the isser of arayis only applies to a man, but not to a woman. A bas noach should not be mechuyev for arayis. Since the pasuk says hayu lebasar echad, that's telling you that no, a bas noach is also going to be mechuyev for being born a eishes, even though it said Al Kinyazav Ish, that was he should leave his parents and make sure not to be over on being born a ish. So that one might think that's only an ish. It says v'hayu basar echad. That's saying that refers to both the man and his wife. They're basar echad. So the wife also is going to have a chiyuv that she can't be born on someone when she's an ish, or she can't be born just as well if she's not married to a man who is married. I'm sorry, that's not true. No, she could. That's not an asr at all. But it's saying when she's married, she can't be born some. Tanarabban. Ishma tamalim. And this is the brisa that we will see the isurim of znus for a ben and basnech. Ish matamad leimer. Matamad leimer ish. What does the pasuk say? Ish el kosa ebsori leisikruvu l'galas avasa. The rabbis is akushim sumazorn ala rayis ki Yisrael. It's coming to tell you that kusim are also on erva. We have a different pasuk that we saw before. Lema zagili arais, right? We had this all the way back. We said the pasuk says in the pasuk of Tzav by Yitzava that we went through the whole pasuk and it said all the different isurim of Bnei the Sheva mitzvahs Bnei from that one pasuk. Obviously, we're going in that shita before. There was another shita that learned each one separately and didn't learn it out from Lema. But this mandamer is now going on according to that mandamer. It said Lema zagili arais. So the Gemara Hosam ba'arayis tidu. When we said Lemor Zagili Arayis, that's talking about when a Ben Nayach is ba on a Ashes Ish who's married under Ben Nayach law. A Ben Nayach who's married, a Bas Nayach, I should say, who's married. V'hacha ba'arayis tidan. When it says over here, Ish l'rabis akushim shemozon al rayis ki Yisrael. That means if a kusi is born a bas Yisrael who's married, that there's going to be an isser for the kusi. Diktani saith, and I'll prove it to you. Ba al rayis Yisrael nidim b'nei Yisrael, because the brisa actually continues and it says if she's ba on the ever Yisrael, she gets dinei Yisrael. So it's vice this. The first part was not talking about ba on Everest Yisrael, talking about Baal Everest Kusim. That price that we just mentioned of Ish L'Rabis Kusim is talking about Baal Kusim. This last thing that we just said, Baal Arayis Yisrael Nidan B'dinei Yisrael. What does that mean? What are we talking about that we say you get the judgment of Yisrael? What's the nafkamina? Amrav Nachman, Amrav Avu, Allah Nitzurcha. It's coming to tell you that although we said that a Baal Bas Kusi or Bas Noyach, we said you only need one aid and one dayan, and you don't need Hasra. If he's a Baal Bas Yisrael, then you need two aidim and you need a dayan, and you need in order to convict this Ben Noyach, you need the higher level of a yid. In fact, the Gemara Migur Gara, we're going to say if he's born a Bas Neach, he's more easily convicted. But if he's born a Bas Yisrael, then we're going to give him all the protections of a defendant in a Jewish court. It's quite the opposite. We should be more strict. We're talking about who is born on a Bas Yisrael who's Mekudeshes. There's no such din of a Naira HaMeiras. There's no Kedushin outside of Judaism. We're the only ones who have such a concept of, we translate it to engagement, but it's not an engagement. It's an actual legal process. It's a legal conclusion. When someone is Mukudesha, she's married B'dinei Yisrael. And someone there's no such thing as Kedushin for a Bas Nayach. So if a Ben Nayach is Ba on a Bas Yisrael who's Muresa, so according to his view, she's not married to anything in Din B'nei Nayach. So we have to, therefore, we have to apply our laws. Aval Eshes is B'dina Didu Daidin. But if he were to, if a Ben Nayach was to go on a Bas, be born a Bas Yisrael who's fully married, who's in a Suah, then we wouldn't there would be no necessity of applying the rules of a Bas Yisrael. We could apply of Yidden. We could apply the rules of them. And what would be
But
the
you still, and because they're being judged with our din, they would need three judges or whatever. I mean, we need the regular ones.
No, we retreated from that. The nafkamina is going to be what misa they're going to get. If she's treated as under their laws, a ben nayach, the only misa they get is saif. If she would be treated under Bas Yisrael as a nesua, right? So nesua would get chenek. It's upgraded to saif because it goes under ben nayach laws. But the naira meirasa, since there's no applicable ben nayach law for it, it reverts to Yisrael law, and under Yisrael law he's going to get skila, which is a more chamadik issa.
What about the rule of having only one judge and 1/8?
So that, like we said, that we fell on that, we left on the wayside. We said it didn't make sense that a ben nayach should get more kuladik, that he's gonna when he's born a Bas Yisrael, he's going to get the benefit of extra protections. It's going to take more to convict him than if he's born a Ben Nayach, Bas Nayach.
So we already retreated from that. So
retreated from that, yeah. We knocked that out. Said it doesn't make sense. So in either case, he's going to be convicted, whether he's born a Bas Yisrael or a Ben Bas Nayach. He's going to be able to be convicted with 1/8 and 1 dayan and no asra. Which, yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly. We had mentioned before that the whole din of shaygig, of hasra, is not really applicable to a ben nayach. We said because he's not. It's bad when you do something b'shaygig, you really were over, but the chas rachmana aleh, the Torah gave you off, and we let you get away with it. So the whole point of getting hasra is to make sure you're not a shaygig. But a ben nayach doesn't get. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was by mechila. That was when we were talking about Pachas Mishava Pruta.
No, well, we did say, what you're saying is interesting, because we said the psukim are the hasra. It is the Azara.
Right. Azara is the hasra, right? I'm saying I remember that we said specifically that hasra is not relevant to a guy. Yeah. So I don't know exactly how this would have worked, but maybe this is, since it's asked, we have a kasha anyway, so we didn't ask that question. But in any case, so we're saying the nafkamina of this din that a ben nayach who's ba on a Bas Yisrael will be by a naira hameirasa. Then we're gonna apply dinei Yisrael to get skill. Tanya Baal naira mirasa. Nidem beskila al eshes nidem b'ched. Yeah. Avol ishes ish bedina ditu daininu. If she's in a nesua, like we said, she's going to get the full-fledged. She's going to get the regular gayish application. There's no need. It's only by a naira mirasa that we're unable to apply ben nayach law, but by a nesua, where we can. She's a full. The bnei nayach do have marriage. So if she's married, if a Bas Yisrael who's married is recognizable, that's cognizable under ben nayach law. So she'll get ben nayach and she'll get sayif instead of cherek.
So she's going to need to aid him with hasra, and he doesn't.
Exactly. Okay. In order for her, because she's a Jew and he's not.
Okay.
Yeah. This is not going to be politically correct here. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. So she gets to walk and he gets to be executed.
If there's only one aid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, she's not probably people won't want to do shidduchim with her either, but yeah, she's not going to get killed. Listen, we very rarely killed anyone anyway. I wonder if that applies to bnei nayach. I wonder if the once in 70 years applies to bnei nayach. Yeah, I don't think there were that many bnei nayach that were around that were under Jewish jurisdiction throughout the centuries. Zaktamar. V'atanya. We learned in a brisa. Ba'al naira hameirasa. Nidam beskila. That someone who's ba on a naira hameirasa gets skila. Al eishasish nidam bechenek. We're talking about we see this is talking about again also a ben nayach who's born a naira meirasa who's Jewish. She gets skila and Eishes is neither bechenek v'i bedina too saifu, like we just said. And the Nesua does not get dina de Yisrael. She gets the guy, the ben nayach gets judged under ben nayach law, and therefore he should get saif, which is always the misa for a ben nayach. We're talking about a specific type of Eishesis that she gets chanek, because we're talking about where there was no bia yet for the chuppah; it was just a chuppah. So again, that is not recognized under ben noyach law. The hu less lahu, since according to them they don't have that kind of nisuin. There's no such thing as a marriage of chuppah. So she remains muresis, which is also not even married. So then bedina didan. So therefore, we have to apply our law. According to our law, she is fully married. She's a nesua. So therefore, they get chanek. You can't do saif. You have to do chanek. The Tanur Chanina, bu'ulas baal, bu'ulas baal yesh lahen. They have such a thing, a concept that someone who is born an isha, she becomes his wife. It's almost like a common law marriage is the only kind of marriage that is recognized. Just signing a certificate is meaningless. It's the bi'iyah that makes ben nayach be married. But they don't have the concept of that they were married with a chuppah or without bi'iyah.
Definitely speaking, if it's a goyim and boyfriend girlfriend, so al kedin that would be considered married.
This is above my pay grade. I couldn't tell you for sure. I mean, I would say there has to be, I don't know. I think it would probably depend on the law where they live. If it's recognized as a common law marriage and they're married, I don't think they'd be automatically, if a man, a 16-year-old guy is born his girlfriend of 15 years old 2 times, and then he goes and he has a new girlfriend next year. Every single guy is mechuyev misa because he was married to the first girl he was born. I don't think it works like that. I would assume there has to be some kind of intention to be married as well. But if it's recognized under law as common law marriage, I would guess that's what would be if it's recognized as common law marriage, or if they have intention to be married. I don't know. This is too much in the weeds for me. I don't know if we have psakim on these things. I don't know if there's like halacha, because it's not very negeya. And it probably was censored if there ever was such halachas written. Okay. Tanya Kavasi de Rabbi Yochanan. We'll bring a raya to Rabbi Yochanan, right? Rabbi Yochanan had said that who is Rabbi Yochanan? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Itzchela Naira Hameirasa, right? That he said that the nafkamina that we treat a ben nayach, where it's not applicable, the law of where do we apply for a ben nayach? The law of Bnei Yisrael is only where we're not able to apply the law of ben nayach. The ervis, there are different types of arayas that are applied to Bnei Yisrael. This is a preamble before we get to the part that's relevant to what we just said, but this is going to be the next blot is going to be talking about this. That Rabbi Yochanan says that any erva that for a yid there'd be a chi of misa is going to be applicable to a guy, and they're going to have the chi of arayas on it. But but if it's a chiyuv that we don't apply misa on it, for example, being ba on achaisai or achais ishtai or achais aviv or achais imai, various Rashi lists a whole bunch of different types of arayas that only are a chi of karas. If someone's over on them, Bezin doesn't kill him. He gets malchus, but the misa is bidei shamayim. So ein ben noyach muzar divrei Reb Meir. According to Reb Meir, there's not going to be any chiyuv for a ben noyach on those arayas that for bnei Yisrael are not chiyuv misa. Chachamim disagree. They say no, it's no nafkamina. If it's asa midaraisa, if there's a lav against it, the ben noyach is also going to be mechuyev misa on it. Even though a yid would only get malchus, the ben noyach there's only one thing. It's all misa. It's all saif. They get saif. Baal arayis Yisrael. Then the brisa continues. Now we're getting back to what we just said. The brisa like Rabbi Yochanan. Baal arayis Yisrael nidim b'di Yisrael. Baal arayis ben noyach nidim b'di noyach. It depends on which. If he goes on, if he's born on a bas noyach, he gets dinei b'nei noyach. If he's born a bas Yisrael, he gets dinei Yisrael. But the only case where this is going to be applicable, where there's going to be an afkamina that you're going to get dinei Yisrael, is in the case of naira hameirasa. Because in naira hameirasa, like we said before, you can't apply dinei b'nei noyach since they don't recognize the erva of a. They don't recognize the connection, the ishus of kedushin. So naira hameirasa has to default back to dinei b'nei Yisrael. What about what we had said that an Ashes ish, you're going to get chanek instead of sayif, where it was nichnas alachupa v'loy nivala, that we're not able to apply, that also is not recognized under bnei noach law. He's still going according to Madam, who says no, that they don't get sayif, they get chanek. So there's no nafkamina anyway. You say you're going to, whether you're done as ben noyach or done as a bnei Yisrael, it's going to be chanek when you're talking about a beula. So when we're going to say we'll have to apply the isab of bnei Yisrael. It's not going to be relevant because it's still going to stay as chanek. Okay, so now we've concluded our discussion of this question of what it means that we apply Isur b'nei Noach to someone who's ba in a case where you're not able to, where someone's ba in a Yisrael and you're not able to apply b'nei Noach law. Now we're going to go back to what Reb Meir had mentioned, the first part of that brisa, that Reb Meir said that you only apply misa to b'nei Noach on those things which a yid would be mechuyev misa for, those ervas. For example, all the ones that we know, askila, right, which would apply to someone who's baal imai and baal on what are some of the other ones? We'll come up. We'll see them in a minute. Which ones are asat? Which ones get misa by a yid, and therefore will also get misa by a goy, according to Reb Meir. But according to the Chachamim, so he said, so Reb Meir said two things. He says, Kol Ever Ben Shishon Mamisal Lein Ben Noach Muzrala, and we saw also Ein Bezin Shishon Mamisal Lein Ein Ben Noach Muzrala. So anything that a Bezin of Yisrael would give Misa, Ben Noach would also get Misa, and if not, no. In fact, the Marva Sarah Meir Kol Ever Bezin Shishon Mamisal Lein Ben Noach Muzrala. Is that true? But Tanya. Ger shehoisa hirasa shaloi b'kedusha, v'dalidase b'kedusha. A ger who was, his mother was megayer after he was conceived. She was already pregnant. So when he was born, he was already she was already b'kedusha. Her gerus applies to him also, but he's not considered to be related anymore to his mother. because by the time when a gershon is guy is katan shenel adami, so as far as familiar relationships are considered, they're not considered to be related. Yesh lo se'er ha'em ve'em lo se'er ha'av. He has chiyuvim that he's going to be mechuyev for being ba on a relative who comes through a maternal relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that it comes through his mother. It means that he's related to them, that they have the same mother. And the Gemara is going to explain. Ha-ketzad. Nasa achoyse min ha'em yaitzi. If he marries this ger, and it really could have essentially been, there's a reason why it says ger min where it's but it really could apply to someone who became a ger later. So you could just like sort of put that out of your mind to reduce the complexity over here. But someone who marries his achoysim and a ger who marries his sister, who is also megayer, yaitzi. He has to be meitzir. He can't stay married to his sister from his mother. Like we said, because that's se'er ha'em. That's a relationship that comes through the mother, and that survives to some extent after the gerushin. Mina'av yikayim. But if it's only a sister from his father, then he doesn't have to kick her out. Now this, the Rashi explains that this is not midaraisa, because midaraisa the rule is 100% that gershon is kayer shekatan shenel adami, and he's no longer related. But the Chachamim misaken that someone who he would have been usher to as a guy with that relationship, it's going to stay usher afterwards. Because otherwise, if you're going to say that, oh, he used to be, he was usher to this woman when he was a ben nayach, before he was Megai, and now he became a yid, now he's mutter to her, that's going to make Judaism not look so good, not so kaddish. We're less careful about isurei arayis than bnei nayach. So that's of course. So this is all going to come down to what he would have been usher to as a guy. If he would have been usher as a guy, then it's going to still be midarabbanan. It's going to be usher after his gerus, even though katan shenel adami. But we're going to disregard that because we don't want him to be more mutter than he would have been before. So achoisei min ha'em would have been usher when he was a guy, because the gayim are also usher min ha'em. But min ha'av, we're going to Reb Meir, as we're going to say, he's not usher to av. And we're going to learn it out from psukim with the differences between min ha'av and min ha'em. Similarly, achoisa av min ha'em yaitzi, min ha'av yikayin. Again, this is a relationship. His father's sister, a father's sister, is usher to a man, but it depends. As a ben nayach, he would have only been usher to achoisa av min ha'em, but not min ha'av. And achoisa ha'em min ha'em yaitzi. And his sister of his mother, min ha'em, would be yaitzi. Achoisa ha'em min ha'av, but achoisa ha'em min ha'av, that's a machlekes. Remeir ha'em yaitzi. V'chamim yikayim. And that Remeir says, achoisa ha'em min ha'av is, Remeir says you still have to go out, even though it's min ha'av. It's achoisa ha'em min ha'av, and we've been saying till now that everything min ha'av is not have to be yaitzi. The Chachamim say yikayim. Remeir ha'em kol ever shahir mishum sher ha'em yaitzi mishum sher av. Im yaitzi mishum sher av yikayim. Remeir said, "Kol ever shehi mishum ser aim yaitzi mishum ser av yikayim." You could always stay with you. So he says that this erva is coming through his mother. So he has a different concern about this. I'm sorry. No. Say this is. I'm sorry. I'm getting this wrong. This is not explaining what we just said. The Chachamim, the Gemara. Before we get to this, the last din that we said, that legabi achois imoi mina av, that Rameh says it's aser, he has an additional concern over there that this is a relative of his mother's, and a direct relative of his mother's. We're not talking over here about where someone is a maternally related. The problem is that it's his mother's relative. People will think that if he's allowed to, that be'etzem, it shouldn't have a takanas chacham on this. But he says, since this is a direct relative of his mother, people will think that a choisei min ha'eim is the same thing as a choisei min ha'av. So we're worried this is like a second order type of chashash that Rameir asked. And then the Gemara explains it, but all of this is based on the concept. But in the end, what it all comes down to is that those things that are mishum sera aim, bnei noyach are going to be chayav on it. Mina'av, it's not a problem. And even though the last one was mina'av, there was an extra takana, but it all came down to the problem of se'er mina aim, or because or that they're related minay. The Brisa continues, Umutter be'eshes achiv, u'be'eshes achi aviv. A person is mutter, this ger is mutter to marry the wife of his brother after his death. Obviously, you can't marry her while she's married. That's an eshes ish. But after his death, u'be'eshes achi aviv, and the wife of the brother of his father, because this is anything that has to do with ishus. That's not going to be Mekoyim. That wouldn't be Aser under Bnei Noyach. Because there's no Issa Midaraisa to marry, right, for a Ben Noyach. I'm sorry, not a Ben Noyach, for a Ger to marry the wife of his brother, because he's a Gershonist guy. And there's also no Takanas Chachamim, because a Eishes Achiv is not also Bechlal for a Ben Noyach.
But didn't we say that when he's Nizgaya, we don't want him to have kulas?
Yeah, we're saying even if he was still a guy, he wouldn't be aser to Eishes Achiv.
He wouldn't be aser.
There's no Isser Eishes Achiv.
So that goes against what we said earlier, that according to the Mando Omer, that says that any arayas that you didn't have, Bnei Noach have as well.
So we're gonna go back and see how this brisa conflicts with the earlier with it. With this is where we bring this brisa to ask a kasha. B'shar kol arayis mutaras lo. And other arayas amataloy lasuye eishes aviv. In addition to eishes achiv and eishes achi aviv, eishes aviv is also going to be mutter, because again, that is something that would not be aser to ben noyach, because again, this is anything, any relative, any karev through marriage. Will not include bnei noyach. Nasa isha ubita, if he married a woman and her daughter, means after they were megayer, they were megayer, so that this isha ubita are no longer related to each other. Kindness, so he had married them, let's say, before he was megayer, and then all three were megayer together. Kindness achas u'moitzi achas. He marries, he can keep one, and he has to be moitzi one. Again, this is going to be, the Gemara is going to address it later. I think the Gemara in Yevamos talks about it, but I think it comes down to another gzeira that this is going to cause confusion as a yid. And all these things that we had mentioned before, he shouldn't marry. That means even we said Eishes Achiv and Eishes Achi Aviv and Eishes Aviv, he's allowed to marry, it's best not to do so. Mesa Ishtoi, if his wife died, Mutter b'chamoisei. Again, this is going to fall in the same class as Eishes Achiv. Anything that's through marriage, there's no Isser on a Ben Noach, and therefore it's not going to apply to him. And there are those who say it's Asa b'chamoisei. Yeah. So Zok the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. So this is our question. That, like you said before, we said before, anything that a Ben Noach, anything that a Yid is going to be Mechayev Misa on, a Ben Noach is also going to be Chayev. But over here he's saying that he can marry the wife of his father, in spite of the fact that certainly there's Misa, that's not a Chiv Karis. Eishes Aviv, we see it says in the pasuk, like we learned those psukim at great length, that Eishes Aviv is Chayiv D'Oraisa for a Yid. So it should be also Mechayiv Misa for a guy. And we're saying that it's mutter because it would have been, everything over here is dependent on if it would have been mutter, if it would have been Aser as a Ben Noach, then it's mutter as a Yid. Similarly, we said about Chamoisai. Chamoisai would be also to a Yid, and it would be Mechayiv Misa. So that's also shver. And like Rafal asked, we're also going to have, we said the second part of the brisa was that anything which a Yid is not Mechayiv Misa for, a Ben Noach is mutter. But what about, we said Achoisai and Achois Ishtoi me Aviv and Achois Ima me Aviv, that we said that that they're all going to be Asur under Alts B'nai Noach, but none of these things are Mechayev Misa Midaraisa. So how could you say that a Ben Noach is going to be Mechayev Misa on them, that he's going to be Asur in them, according to Reb Meir's way of looking at the world? So Amar Rabbi Yehuda loy kasha, Hara Meir Aribida Aliba de Rebbe Lazar. So Rebbe Lazar, we're going to see, holds, like we just saw in this brisa, that there's no connection between whether a Yid gets miso or not. The erva of a Ben Noach could be aser even on something that's only a chiv kares. But Rabbi Kiva was like the brisa that we said before, that Rabbi Meir had said that those things that a Yisrael is not mechuyev on, a Ben Noach is not going to. He's not mechuyev misa. Ben Noach is not going to be us. The Tanya. Where do we see this from? Al ken yazav ishes avives ima. This is the pasuk that tells you the dinei arayis for Ben Noach. Rebbe Lazar Aimer aviv achos aviv imay achos imay. When it says aviv, that's referring to the sister of his father, and imay, it's referring to the sister of his mother. Rabbi Kiva Aimer aviv eishes aviv imay mamish. Rabbi Kiva will say aviv is not referring to the wife. He'll say it's not referring to achos aviv, it's referring to eishes aviv. Because, and this so comes out that Rabbi Kiva says only eishes aviv is the raisa that yechayev misa as a yid. So he's saying that, like the earlier brisa that says it's only those things which a yid is mechuyev misa. Rebbe Lazar says this pasuk of Al Ken Yazav Ish that's saying what's also to a Ben Noach, it's achos aviv and achos imay. So clearly he's not holding to that standard. Achos aviv and achos imay are not chiyuvei misa. Okay. I know it's pretty late, but I think that the next part is pretty easy. What should we do? Let's go a little bit weiter, and if you have to drop off, you can just drop off and you'll listen to the recording. So we continue with the pasuk. Al ken yazav ishesav. So that's the first part of the pasuk where we see the machlokes between Rebbe Lazar and Rabbi Akiva. The davak v'loy bezachar. The pasuk continues with davak. That means not as a zachar. A person doesn't get close to a zachar. Ve'ishtoi v'loy be'eshes chaveret. Ken yazav ishtoi. So but he's not allowed to be ba. A Ben Noach is also to be ba on an Eishes Ish. V'hayu lebasar echad. Mishnasim basar echad yotza behema v'chaya shein nasim basar echad. There's not, they don't make, being born a behema obviously doesn't produce any offspring, so it's not considered basar echad. Amar Mar, Rabbi Elazar Omer Aviv Achois Aviv. Rabbi Elazar said Aviv refers to the sister of his father. Ema Aviv Mamish. Let's say that means the actual father, like Rabbi Kiva did. Hainu v'davak, v'loy b'zacha. He's already said that being born as zachar is also. Ema Eishes Aviv. Let's say it's talking about Eishes Aviv. Hainu b'ishtay. And said you can't. Eishes Ish is also. V'loy b'Eishes Chaveri. Ema la'acha misa. Let's say it's referring to Eishes Aviv after his father dies. So he said, so we go back. No, that's not the reason why it can't be talking about Eishes Aviv, because it says it's already a married person. It could be talking about after Misa, but it's not likely that Aviv is talking about Eishes Aviv, because we also said Imai. Ma Imai delav Ishus, said he's also be Imai, and that's not Ishus, because it's not talking about the wife of his mother, no such thing. So by Ishus, by his mother, it's talking about her mother's sister. So it's just like the mother, it's talking about a relative, a curve of the mother, and not someone who's married to the mother. So the father also is talking about, that's why he can't be talking about Eishes Aviv. That's what he says. Yeah. So Mishnah Amar Maralaza, Amar Aviv Achois Aviv, Ema Aviv Mamish, that's why he can't say. So that's why you can say Eishes Aviv. So he said instead, Achoisa. Avav Dlav Ishus. Imai, we said Achois Imai. The Ema Imai Mamish. Maybe it's referring to Imai Mamish. Hainu be'ishtay, v'loi be'ishes chavera, ve'ema lacha misa. Let's say it's she's actually married. So he's saying, but lacha misa still also. Dum yudav ma'ov delav mamish af imay delav mamish. Just like the father wasn't mamish, because we said that would be mishkav zachar, which is already included, and we said this. So therefore, the wife can't be mamish. So therefore, it has to be achayis imay. And once we're talking about achayis imay, we said the father has to be doing it to the imay. So therefore, it's achayis aviv as opposed to eishes aviv. Rabbi Kiva Aimer Aviv Eishes Aviv. Aviv is not Achos Aviv, but it's Eishes Aviv. The Ema Aviv Mamish. Let's say it means Mamish. Hainu the Davak v'loy bezach at the same time. Yache Eishes Aviv Nami Hainu be'ishtoi v'loy be'Eishes Chaveri. How can you say Eishes Aviv? We already said that it's talking about Eishes Aviv. We already said that the person's aser in Eishes Ish. Lacha Misim. Lacha Mis. And Imoi he understands to be Imoi Mamish. Rabbi Kiva says Imei is Imei Mamish. So Hainu be'ishtoi, v'loy be'eshes chaver, but then she's married. Imei be'anus sasai. It's talking about Imei, not while she's married. It's not Eshes. It doesn't have to. We could answer both questions before we don't have to go through the whole thing. Alacha Misa. So we say it's Imei Mamish, but it's Mimai Sasai. She was never married, so therefore she's not included in either an Eshes Ish or Eshes Aviv. But Michael Mithlgi. So what's going to be the machlokes dependent on? Rabbi Elazar Sava Aviv Dumi the Imai, the Imai Dumi the Aviv. Lemishkacha. So the only way you can have that they're both the same, Ela ba'achva. It's only going to be possible that you're going to have the same thing apply to both of them is where you're talking about Achois Imai and Achois Aviv. But if you say Eishes Aviv, then you have to say that Imai is Imai Mamish. And they're not going to be so similar. Rabbi Kiva mutav la'okna be'eshes aviv dekri erves aviv lafuki achets aviv d'ser aviv. Since in this pasuk refer to it as erves aviv, it's more likely to be talking about eshes aviv. That's erves aviv is a sounds more like a marriage. Achos aviv, which is a relationship. Erves is through marriage, and se'er is through familial bonds. So therefore, the likelihood is that he believes that there's a strong indicator that Aviv is talking about Eishes Aviv, and so therefore we have to understand that Imai is Imai Mamish in order that so even though they won't be lined up, they won't be equivalent, but to him it's more important to have that the ever matches up. It's not called Eresav. Okay, we'll stop over here. Once again, thank you for your forbearance. That was a long one.